Hi, I'm Alyssa, in case that wasn't told. And I'm going to be doing this presentation on test-taking strategies, because I learned the hard way that there's a lot of things that you should probably prepare for before you go into this head first. Oh, it froze. Okay, there we go. I have something in the way, sorry. I couldn't see what was on the screen for a second. Sorry.
You're good.
If you're like me, you hear the word test and you start contemplating how bad life as a homeless runaway would be. Eventually, you almost convince yourself it's not such a bad idea. And then you realize it's actually a very, very bad idea because you would have no idea how to survive. So then you sit curled up in a corner and try not to cry. That's just me. Well, regardless, testing can be scary or intimidating, especially state testing. So most people who know they're about to go to state testing, we sort of just kind of, yeah, it's overwhelming to a lot of people. That's why I'm here to help you try not to be quite so blindsided when you get in there. I know I'm not really one to talk since I'm the one that opts for crying in a corner, but I do have advice. Okay, I'm going to be a bit more serious through the presentation now because I'm pretty sure I'll get in trouble if I don't. I just want to make an intimidating subject a little bit more lighthearted. And so aside from that, I have some pretty good advice that I share with you because I've learned the hard way that you should probably take care of these things. Notes, notes, notes. Yes, as cliche and hand cramping as it sounds, notes are extremely helpful when you're preparing for any test. When you write down what you need to remember, the action of being very focused on what notes you have to write will help keep the information in your mind. This also helps make it easier to recall the information when you see a word in the question on your test that you wrote down, and you can think, oh, I remember writing that specific thing down, and you can be 100% confident in your answer. Get a head start. A small side note on those notes is that you should definitely not procrastinate. I'm someone who puts the pro in procrastination. Let me tell you, that's not going to help you in the long run. If you put off your studies and note-taking until the last night before you go into your test, you won't retain much information. Get on it early, weeks early. Really, I mean it. I know it doesn't sound like what you'd normally do, and usually neither would I, but you really will do better if you start preparing for the test and studying for it as soon as is convenient. This lets you get in at least a close to normal sleep schedule and still learn what you need to, all while reducing a lot of the stress during the process. Clean work environment. If you're sitting in a pile of dirty clothes and wrappers and crumbs, it's just not going to help you focus when studying. Don't try to lie to me. You and I both know your room is probably exactly what I just described. Clean up. Honestly, what kind of a parent are you to your Sims that you make clean up all the time if you don't set the example yourself? There's some sort of saying that a cluttered area leads to a cluttered mind. Don't quote me on that, I'm probably wrong. But it's actually true, if you think about it. When you're trying to focus and there's a bunch of unwashed coffee cups from all those all-nighters that we're going to discuss later, or crumpled papers from notes that went wrong all around you, it is busy and distracting for your eyes and not so much your mind, which keeps you from working efficiently and focusing. So clean it all up. Throw away what you don't need, but what you do need in folders, and put those cereal bowls and coffee cups in the dishwasher. For good measure, get a damp paper towel and get the smudges off of your screen that I know you're trying to ignore as we speak. Distractions. Distractions are one of your biggest enemies when trying to study. This is going to sound crazy, I know, but I really suggest turning off notifications on your phone and any other device. Yeah, you heard me right. When you're studying for that big scary test, you can focus and not be distracted the easiest if your notifications aren't pulling your eyes away from the paper. This doesn't mean you need to just not use your phone before testing altogether, but you should turn it off when you're doing the action of studying. Trust me, it really helps, and it also keeps your train of thought on track, which in the long run makes it easier to recall information when you're doing the test. If you have distracting family members, let them know you're studying and ask them to leave the room or find a quieter environment. If you have a cat that won't stop hopping onto your desk and, Pippin, get off my computer, then shoo them into the next room. Ways to study. Not only should you take notes, but it is also a good idea to break down what you're taking notes of after you make them. What that means is after taking your extensive notes, you should make a bulletin list with somewhere between 5 to 10 facts on that particular field that will remind you of the whole thing. Just like a story has a beginning, middle, and end, you would have bulletin notes on what the beginning, middle, and end are of your original notes about math or language usage. That way, when you see a word on the test that reminds you of a fact you wrote down in those bulletin notes, your mind can easily go to a summary of the story. This is a pretty efficient way to study, but it's not for everyone, so do what you're comfortable doing and have confidence in doing. Practice tests. There's a big state test of it, there's usually a practice test for it. Whenever you know what test you're taking, you should definitely Google it with practice test in the search. And when you find a good one, bookmark it and take it as often as you can before you have to take the real thing. This is a really good way, if not the best way, to prepare yourself for the test and know what you are facing. If you have a chance to see exactly what you are up against, then you can get an idea of what you need to focus the most on in studying before you get in there with the real thing. Remember that the questions will not be exactly the same, so don't try to go off some photographic memory or anything with your practice test. And this is just a little side note, because it's something that I'm doing. I can tell you for certain that if you are going for the PSAT tests, you'll want to look up the SAT practice tests. They're pretty much the same thing, but with only a bit harder and more tricky questions in the SATs. If you practice for the SAT when you're planning on taking the PSAT, you will most likely be over-prepared for the PSAT and have a much higher chance of doing your best on the PSAT. All-nighters. Dun, dun, dun. No. All-nighters are not a good idea. They are the worst idea. If you try to pull one of these and spend practically all night working on those notes, for one, you're going to start getting the information from the subjects you're focusing on all mixed together in your head, and that makes it so that way you do not remember the right facts or solutions. And you might as well have not tried to study that night in the first place because everything you did was for nothing. The next day, you'll be running on practically no sleep, which causes the same problem. You can't keep the facts that you learned or might still be trying to learn in order, and that makes it all for nothing. You also end up with a headache and feeling sick as well as exhausted all day, which is just not worth it. If you feel like you need to cram in a little bit more information, no matter how much you've efficiently studied, then the best idea is to go to bed early. That's because there's a chance that you'll be awake for a while before you can even fall asleep out of nerves or just insomnia. Afterwards, get up early to skim your notes one final time before you have to take the test. Positive thoughts. Cheery goodness. If someone is making your thoughts about how well you will do on your test, just ignore them. Or you can ask them to go away, politely. Don't say shoo and be mean. Get in the zone, listen to songs that pump you up when you're studying, if you know it won't distract you. And then listen to them the night before the test as well, even that morning if you want. You'd be surprised how much it helps your memory to listen to a song while writing your notes. Later, when you hear the song, most of the time, it makes your memory recall a few of the things you studied when you hear certain lyrics that you listened while writing the notes. This isn't for certain, but if you feel like it will give you more confidence in studying what you wrote down, there are some studies about chewing gum while studying, having the same effect as I just said about music did, while chewing the same gum and taking a test. If you're allowed to have gum at the test, might as well try it. When it comes to getting more positive vibes about the test, anything helps. Do you have any questions or comments?
Thanks, Alyssa. Any questions or comments, you can either raise your hand and I'll unmute you, or you're welcome just to shoot them in the questions box, and I will relay them to Alyssa. She can't see that, but I can see what comes in that way. So go ahead and shoot your questions this way. Overall, thank you, Alyssa. That was very well done and had some great points in it. And I liked your humor. I know it's hard to be funny when you don't see anyone's reaction, but I promise you we were laughing.
Okay, good. Honestly, though, tests, they overwhelm me. And so it's like, if you think that you're over here crying in the corner like, oh my goodness, I'm going to fail, don't do that. Everybody does it. You're okay.
Yes, agreed. Sarah does comment that she did love the slideshow and wished that she had this before the SAT. Yes, and that was probably bad planning on my part. Forgot our SAT was kind of at a different timing than our other test windows. But hopefully, Sarah, this is something you can take with you, or if you do retake that SAT, you can still have these good tips behind you. Especially, Alyssa, I really liked your tip on Googling practice problems for the test. That's something that works for the SAT, the PARCC, the ACT, if that's something anyone is still taking, CMAT, all of those.
It applies to almost all of them.
Yep, exactly. So that's a great tip. Anybody else, any questions or comments as we wrap up our final mentor session of the year? Now, if you're thinking of them, or go ahead and keep typing, and I'll pass those along. This is our last one this year, since we do have our testing week starting next week, and then we'll wrap up at the end of May. It all goes so fast, so I didn't want to try to squeeze another one in. But if you are returning to Branson next year, we will, at this point in time, we are planning on continuing this mentor session. So if you have any ideas of topics you'd like to see, particularly at the beginning of the year, please let me know. If you have any interest at all in being a mentor, please let me know. I'm always on the hunt for both of those things, and we'll try to start it out a lot sooner next year so we can actually have a couple sessions within the first month or two of school. One last reminder again that you do get extra credit, both Alyssa and all of my attendees, for being here. So just email the teacher of your choice. I prefer that you do it sooner rather than later. Don't wait till the end of the quarter. Oh yeah, I went to that mentor session. Please do it within the week, just to make sure that your teacher knows that and they can mark it off the list as well. So, no questions or comments, and you are free to go. Thank you again, Alyssa. You did a great job. You had some really good tips, and I loved your humor you added into the session. And good luck, everyone, on your state testing if you haven't taken it yet. And let me know if you have any suggestions. See you later.
Presentation with Kira, and I forgot to ask for extra credit in the class for that. Can I add that into the email about this one?
Yeah,
the class that I choose?
Yep,
okay.
Definitely. Sounds good.